21% of the world's oil passes through one 34-mile choke point. If it closes, your grocery bill could spike 8 to 12% in 60 days. Here's exactly how. I'm breaking down the Strait of Hormuz supply chain collapse you need to understand, because this isn't theoretical anymore. Let's start with the raw numbers. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran and Oman. Every single day, 21 million barrels of oil flow through it. That's one barrel every 4 seconds. No other waterway on Earth moves more energy. The Suez Canal carries less, the Panama Canal carries less. If this strait closes, whether by military conflict, blockade, or accident, the global economy doesn't just hiccup, it seizes. Here's what happens in week 1. Oil prices don't double, they don't triple. Historical data from the 1973 Arab oil embargo and the 2011 Libya disruption shows us that restricted supply of just 4 to 5% of global oil can spike prices 40–70% in the first month. A full Hormuz closure removes 21%. Run that math. We're looking at $150 plus per barrel within days. Current baseline is around $80. That's an 87% jump. Now, 87% might sound abstract. Let me make it concrete. A cargo ship carrying goods from Shanghai to Los Angeles currently costs $3,000 per container. That's locked in on current fuel rates. But shipping companies buy fuel in the futures market. The moment Hormuz closes, that $3,000 contract becomes worthless. Real-time fuel surcharges, which are automatic contract clauses, jump 40 to 50% immediately. Your $3,000 shipment now costs $4,200. That extra $1,200 doesn't disappear. It gets distributed across every item in that container. Let's follow a real-world example. A single cargo ship carries 20,000 containers. One container holds 10,000 boxes of breakfast cereal. That's $1,200 distributed across 10,000 boxes. That's 12 cents per box. Sounds small? A box of cereal costs $3.50 retail. That's a 3.4% jump on shelf price just from shipping. And this is day 5 of a Hormuz closure. By day 30, you're seeing multiple waves. First wave, direct shipping cost increases 0 to 7 days. Second wave, fuel surcharge acceleration as oil prices peak 7 to 14 days. Third wave, supply chain inventory depletion hits grocery shelves and gas pumps 14 to 30 days. Fourth wave, retailer and supplier margin compression forces them to raise prices to protect profit 20–45 days. Historical precedent. During the 2011 Libya disruption, which removed only 1.6 million barrels per day, U.S. gas prices rose from $3.16 to $3.97 in 30 days. That's 25% in 1 month. A Hormuz closure removes 13 times more supply. Scale it proportionally, and you're looking at 40 to 60% gas price increases in 30 days. If gas is $3.50 today, you're paying $5.25 at the pump within 30 days. But here's where it gets worse. Gas pumps are visible. Consumers freak out, demand stimulus, inflation expectations shift, central banks panic. But the real damage happens invisibly through inventory and logistics networks. When a Hormuz closure happens, major shipping companies stop offering long-term contracts. They only accept spot rates, day-by-day pricing. This forces retailers to choose, deplete inventory to meet demand at stale prices, or reduce orders and accept empty shelves. Most choose inventory depletion. That sounds good for consumers initially. Prices stay stable for 2 to 3 weeks. But once inventory runs out, retailers have no choice but to restock at current market rates, which are now 30 to 40% higher. They pass those costs immediately to consumers. Let's quantify grocery impact. Groceries are 25 to 30% of consumer household budgets. Transportation is 8 to 12% of grocery costs. A 40% shipping surge means 3.2 to 4.8% of your grocery bill rises immediately. On average, U.S. households spend $300 per week on groceries. That's an extra $10 to $15 per week. Over a month, that's 40 to 60 additional spending per household. But wait, there's more complexity. Not all goods are affected equally. Perishables move air freight when shipping delays hit. Air freight is 8 to 15 times more expensive than maritime. Fresh produce, dairy, meat, these shift to air. That's not a 3% increase. That's a 20 to 35% increase for these categories specifically. Meats jump 22 to 28%. Dairy jumps 15 to 20%. Fresh produce jumps 25 to 35%. Grains and staples jump 8 to 12%. This creates a weighted average of 12 to 15% grocery inflation across the board within 60 days. Now, the downstream effects. Inflation hits grocery prices, consumers reduce discretionary spending, retail employment contracts. We've seen this movie. Q1 2022 saw the start of a supply chain crisis. Retail added 51,000 jobs in February 2022. By August 2022, retail employment turned negative. A Hormuz closure would compress that timeline from 6 months to 6 weeks. Layoffs ripple through logistics, transportation, and warehousing. Unemployment ticks up 0.3 to 0.5% within 90 days. That's 450,000 to 750,000 jobs. Consumers then reduce spending further due to job uncertainty, collapsing demand. Retailers cut inventory orders 20 to 30%. This creates a deflationary death spiral in months 3 to 6, as supply chains normalize, but demand has already collapsed. The housing market gets hit differently. Mortgage-backed securities pricing depends on inflation expectations. A Hormuz closure spikes near-term inflation expectations from 3 to 5 to 6%. The Fed can't raise rates fast enough without breaking credit markets. Long-term mortgage rates, which are forward-looking, spike 75 to 100 basis points in 2 to 3 weeks. A $400,000 mortgage jumps from $2,200 a month to $2,400 a month. That's 9% higher monthly payments. In a market where marginal buyers are already stretched, this kills home sales 35 to 45% within 60 days. Here's the summary. Day 17, oil spikes 40 to 70%, shipping costs spike 40 to 50%, gas prices rise 25%. Day 730, inventory depletion hits, grocery prices rise 8, gas prices peak at 40 to 60% above baseline. Day 30 to 60, supply chain restocking at higher rates forces 12 to 15% grocery inflation. Retail employment turns negative. Mortgage rates spike 75 to 100 basis points. Day 60-90, demand destruction accelerates. Retailers cut orders 20 to 30%. Deflationary pressures begin building. This isn't speculation. This is supply chain mathematics applied to historical precedent. The Strait of Hormuz closure scenario isn't inevitable, but the probability has risen. Recent tensions in the region are elevated. One miscalculation, one military incident, and the mathematics I just outlined becomes reality. The point: your grocery bills and gas pump don't spike because of abstract economic forces. They spike because physical choke points in global logistics